We have constantly talked on this channel for a very, very long time the problems going on at the border. And many of these problems are, of course, caused by Brexit. But the biggest problem is you need the infrastructure. If you are going to do checks, as we've said every single time that is what Brexit will mean, you have to carry out physical checks. And as we have explained, as we have seen numerous times, those checks are just absolutely awful. They either just have not been happening for a very long time under the Conservatives, or even now, where they have come in, there just is not the space, the areas. Truckers are told to go to this spot, which is miles away, which they have to drive to. As we've said, anything can happen between that load and that area where it gets checked. Now, there has been a significant increase in smuggling going on in the UK since Brexit, since 2020. And are we surprised as to why? No. We've seen time and time again of, the couple of years ago, we had the big incident of all these suspicious meats being implemented and brought in from, into the UK because they knew they could get away with those checks. And it's even more important now, especially when it comes to chicken, because as you all may or may not know, bird flu is going through a big thing at the moment. Big thing. So it is really important we keep an eye on bird flu and that we make sure that if we are importing any live chicken, either dead chicken, that it is checked for bird flu, because if that enters, the food chain, that's going to be a problem. That could kickstart things off in the UK. If a live chicken comes in and it has, bird flu, well, that could essentially mean the UK poultry industry gets absolutely decimated, and you see in the UK prices of eggs and especially chicken, when it comes to meat, just skyrocket because of it. And bear in mind, you've still got things like the British dairy industry and the beef industry have not recovered, or it's still very much in the process of recovering, of course, from, mad cow disease, even though that happened like almost back in the 90s, still very much in the process of recovering. Swine flu, pork industries still trying to recover from that. Certainly during the pandemic as well, you've got a big problem with just the number of pigs because the slaughterhouses weren't working. Because the pigs can breed quite quickly. They eat a lot of food, and that caused a lot of pork farms and things like that in the UK to really have a lot of trouble during that time. So a lot of these industries are having a lot of trouble, and this is really bad for our agricultural industries. It's bad because, we saw, especially during the 90s, that Europe basically went, well, because you've got mad cow disease, France said, we ain't accepting any beef, any cows whatsoever. And because we're in the EU went, no, you can't do that. However, this time might be different. But that, again, would massively impact our agricultural industry for huge reasons, I need to say. So obviously, kind of something we got to have important. However, unfortunately, it does now to see that these checks at the border still aren't working, still aren't in place. It still comes down to lack of space, lack of infrastructure, and lack of spending on these things. And remember, we've had 5 years out of like Brexit proper. We had at least 3 to 4 years of planning for this, Brexit, and none of it was built. The EU, France, all these areas, they got all their stuff sorted out. What on earth? What on earth were we doing? Oh, that's right. The Tories were just, it looks like they were just twiddling their thumbs. Seriously looks like it. But this is now a problem that Labour government has to solve, and they cannot sit idly by, because if not, this will cause big problems to us. So we're going to have a look at this because it is very important. It is important that we keep track of things like this, because if not, it's, the British poultry industry is going to have a lot of problems by the looks of it, maybe this year, if we don't keep an eye on these. So Before we do go into this, please do remember to click the like and share button. And of course, down below, there's the Patreon page. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So delays now to the post-Brexit border checks may have let diseased chicken enter the UK. So, UK health bosses have privately admitted that the lack of border inspections in the wake of Brexit has left the British consumers exposed now to diseased meat, an investigation has found. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism previously uncovered now a host of failings by the government's handling of outbreaks now of drug-resistant salmonella, particularly linked to the supermarket chicken from Poland. These illnesses have now been connected to the outbreaks, which has also now affected eggs, have now peaked at different points between 2020 and 2024. All while these border checks were being and supposed to be in place post-Brexit were repeatedly being delayed. The set of documents now seen by the TGB also reveal that now series of high-level meetings in late 2023 of food safety and health bosses admitted that the UK's borders could have been allowing infected meat to enter the country unchecked. So remember, if I were Labour right now, I'd be on the attack for the Tories on this. Like, I would be out there absolutely attacking on this. But then I'd also have to turn around and say, right, what are we doing on this? You know, have we got these things in here? Have we got this stuff in here? Because if we haven't, we need to put them in like lickety split. You know, we need to get this now. If not, we are risking so much. You know, we are risking people's health. We are risking, you know, problems in the NHS because of all this extra pressure that we are, you know, putting on this by not trying to solve this problem. You are adding huge problems to the British poultry industry. On top of this, you are trying to, again, solve inflation, trying to solve the cost of living crisis. Well, guess what? Eggs and chicken, predominantly, especially chicken, is like the main meat that a lot of people eat in the UK. A lot of people eat meat, especially chicken meat in the UK. Eggs, obviously, going to be a big problem as well. Ingredient to a whole range of things. You know, if you really want to solve the cost of living crisis, then you've got to make sure that these things are safe, that they aren't, you know, infected. We've seen, obviously, in America very recently, the bird flu and, you know, the problems that Trump and the way that he is handling that, you know, kind of a problem on that front. You know, if there's whole kinds of series of problems could come about because of this, and it is really worrying on this. Really worrying that if these, you know, do not come into place. So, and like I say, they go really all into this. You know, talking about, you know, salmonella, big increase on this. You know, talking about, you know, growing concerns about exposure to UK consumers, exposure to our public health risks of contaminated food. Last year, hospital admissions from salmonella infections reached an all-time high. Gee, I wonder why. So these are a really, really big problem. And it is because we are not in some of these EU institutions that we are not tracking this. So as you can see here, the EU authorities issued an alert back in 2023 linking more than 330 human salmonella cases now to infected poultry and a number now of infected member countries, including those that made sick were, of course, young children, of course, babies. Victims identified in Denmark, France, Ireland, Italy, and even the Netherlands, and the UK and Austria, where one person died. Many of these contaminated food samples originated from Poland. So really, really important that, you know, we are up on this, that we are, you know, making sure these checks are being in place. Maybe, you know, making sure that we're part of some of these EU early warning systems, that we are working with them to identify maybe some problems. And if they are coming from Poland, well, this is also, let's face it, on Poland as well, to make sure that they are following through on those regulations. They are checking some of that stuff. Because it's not just, as you saw there, us where this is also an us problem as well. You saw, like, Denmark from Ireland, the Netherlands, a lot of other EU countries are being affected by this as well. So this is a big problem. It is something that we need to sort of really take seriously, because bird flu in particular, this is how you get pandemics, people. This is how you get pandemics. So we have to take these problems seriously. And I would at least hope that because of COVID, because of that last pandemic, that we would be taking at least a lot more preventative stuff. And stuff like this isn't just, an us problem. It is a European problem. And it is something that we should all work together to make sure to try and mitigate as much of this possibility of another pandemic spreading as possible, because you can never 100% stop a pandemic. Look at, COVID, all the preparedness in the world did not stop, the rapid spread of COVID like it did. You'd think, we will be taking a lot of this stuff at least a lot more seriously. So, let me know what you think down below in the comments. That it is something we need to take seriously. It is these post-border delay checks that were constantly delayed that we said back then would cause problems. And guess what? They have caused problems. Immediate rise in Salmonella in hospitals. Are we shocked? Absolutely not, because we said that back in the time. It probably would be. Guess what? We've seen that now. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, click the like, click the share button on your way out. And of course, we'll see you all next time.